You don't need a raise. You need to raise your value because no one gets paid for existing. No one gets rewarded for just showing up. You're not paid for time. You're paid for impact. And the world, this brutal, beautiful, fast-moving world, does not give you what you want. It gives you what you earn, and you earn it in value. Raise your value, and the money follows. Raise your value, and the doors open. Raise your value, and the world, indifferent as it seems, starts to notice. You see, most people have this backwards. They're sitting there, waiting for the boss to recognize them, waiting for the market to reward them, waiting for some moment when someone taps them on the shoulder and says, "Hey, you deserve more." But that moment never comes, not because you're not worthy, but because the world doesn't see worth. The world sees value, and value is visible, tangible. It moves things forward. It solves problems. It saves time. It increases profits. It brings peace. It makes life better, faster, smoother, stronger. That's value. And when you raise your value, you never have to beg for more. You attract more. But raising your value starts with raising your standards. Not just the standards of what you expect from others, the standards of what you demand from yourself. Your work ethic, your energy, your attention to detail, your emotional intelligence, your communication, your consistency. These are your stock price. Every day they rise or fall based on the choices you make when no one's watching. Do you want to earn more? Don't ask for more. Become more. More skilled. More focused. More disciplined. More aware. More useful. Because here's the hard truth. Money doesn't respond to need. Money responds to value. And value is built through sweat, through sacrifice, through a relentless obsession with growth. The people at the top, they're not always the smartest. They're not always the most connected, but they're valuable. They figured out how to become irreplaceable. They mastered a skill, owned a space, delivered results consistently. They didn't just clock in. They showed up differently. They walked in with ideas. They solved the problem before it was assigned. They paid attention to details no one else saw. They cared more and proved it in execution. So ask yourself, how do you raise your value? Not one day, not when you're inspired, but every single day. You start with this mindset, because value doesn't grow in a weak mind. It grows in a mastered one, a mind that takes ownership, a mind that doesn't make excuses, a mind that's allergic to blame and addicted to responsibility. You don't say, "They didn't train me." You say, "I'll learn it myself." You don't say, "They don't see me." You say, "I'll build something they can't ignore." You don't wait for someone to change your circumstances. You become the change. That's value. It starts inside. And when your mindset levels up, your language changes. You speak possibility, not limits. You speak solutions, not complaints. You become the person in the room who calms the chaos, not adds to it. And suddenly, people take notice. Why? Because value is rare, and rare is remembered. From mindset, we move to belief. Because you can't raise your value if you don't believe you have value to raise. And that belief, it can't be faked. You either believe you're here for more, or you've bought the lie that this is it. But here's what I know. You wouldn't be here if you were done growing. You wouldn't be listening if you were meant to settle. So, stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for someone else to validate what you already know. You are capable. You are worthy. You are powerful. But now you must prove it. Not to them, to you. Prove it by building the skill. Prove it by showing up early. Prove it by staying late. Not for ego, not for approval, but because you're investing in your own stock value. Belief isn't just a feeling. It's an action. It's the courage to invest in yourself before the world does. And that belief feeds clarity. Because once you believe in your value, you stop chasing everything. You stop trying to do it all. You get clear on your strengths, your purpose, your direction. Because confused people dilute their value. They try to serve everyone and end up helping no one. They try to be everything and become nothing memorable. But when you're clear, you simplify, you specialize. You become known for something, not everything. And that something becomes your signature. Your value multiplies when your clarity sharpens. So, what are you building? What are you becoming the best at? What do you solve better than anyone around you? If you don't know yet, find out. Fast. Because once you do, your actions become aligned. Your energy becomes precise. Your results become inevitable. And when clarity takes root, you start to move with vision. Not blind ambition, not hustle for the sake of hustle, but intentional, focused, long game vision. The kind of vision that creates legacy, not just lifestyle. You start to think beyond the next paycheck. You start building systems. You stop reacting and start designing. And in that vision, you see value expansion. You see how every book you read, every conversation you engage, every failure you endure is a deposit into the value account you're growing. You're no longer just working a job. You're building capital inside yourself. And that capital, that value, it eventually pays dividends the world can't ignore. And now comes the part where most people fall off. Discipline. Because once you have the mindset, the belief, the clarity, the vision, you're going to need the grit to keep showing up when the excitement disappears. You want to raise your value? Then raise your standards of consistency. Raise your tolerance for boredom. Raise your refusal to negotiate with distractions. Because raising your value isn't about doing more once. It's about doing the right things again and again until you become undeniably better. Discipline isn't sexy. Discipline doesn't post well on social media. Discipline doesn't get applause, not at first. But it gets wealth. It gets freedom. It builds respect first from yourself, then from everyone else. Discipline is when you study while others scroll. Discipline is when you refine your craft in silence while others perform in noise. Discipline is when you deliver no matter how you feel. That's how value grows. Every rep, every rep, every rep. And eventually, you look up and realize you didn't just change your income, you changed your identity. You became someone whose value is obvious even before you speak. And from discipline flows the river called action. Because the world does not pay for intentions. It does not compensate you for potential. You can have all the belief, vision, and goals in the world, but if you don't move, you'll never be rewarded. The marketplace is only moved by execution. People pay for what they can see, not what you say you might do. So act. Launch the thing. Make the call. Pitch the idea. Study the material. Build the system. Don't wait for perfect. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for anyone else to clap before you begin. You be the first to move. Because action creates momentum. And momentum creates confidence. And confidence increases your value. Because confidence is currency. People trust those who act. People follow those who take initiative. People remember those who do more than expected. Let others talk. Let others hope. You execute. You move with intent. You do the small things with precision and the big things with courage. And over time, you build a reputation. That's the person who gets it done. That reputation is value. It's the invisible resume. It's what makes people think of you when opportunity needs a name. And that kind of value can't be faked. It must be earned relentlessly, religiously, repeatedly. And as you act, you start to develop the rarest asset of all, self-trust. You become someone who keeps promises to yourself, and that is priceless. Now, as the action compounds, as the work deepens, you start to recognize something powerful. You're not doing this for applause. You're doing it because it's who you are now. And in that space, you find something unexpected. Gratitude. Gratitude not just for the rewards, but for the process, for the discipline, for the struggle, for the days when it was hard and you showed up anyway. Because when you live this way, when you raise your value every day, not out of ego, but out of principle, you become grateful for the challenge. You no longer resent the grind. You honor it because you see it now. The grind is what makes you valuable. It's not just the outcomes. It's the transformation. And with gratitude comes a quiet power. You're not bitter. You're not entitled. You're not desperate. You are centered. You are anchored in purpose. You can smile while working. You can serve while growing. You can succeed without arrogance because you earned it. And that's elite value. Gratitude also softens your energy in the right ways. It sharpens your focus without hardening your heart. It helps you rise without forgetting where you came from. It keeps your value human, not just productive. People feel it. They trust it. Because true value isn't loud. It's present. It's felt. And the more you practice gratitude, the more opportunities seem to find you not by chance, but by alignment. You're in the right rooms, saying the right things, with the right people, at the right time, because your energy matches your value. And now you begin to master one of the greatest accelerators of all, adaptability. Because if raising your value is the goal, then staying valuable is the game. And the rules of the game are always changing. Markets shift. Trends fade. Technology evolves. Industries transform overnight. And what used to be valuable, what used to work, can become obsolete faster than you can update your resume. This is why adaptability is not optional. It is the edge. Because value that can't adapt is value that expires. But here's the beautiful truth. The most valuable people are not just specialists. They are specialists who can evolve. They know how to let go of outdated methods while holding on to timeless principles. They learn fast. They respond faster. They pivot without panic. They are not afraid to start over, to rethink, to restructure, to reframe. Because they are not married to their method, they are married to the mission. They don't confuse pride with progress. They don't cling to what once worked just because it's familiar. They adapt. And in doing so, they stay ahead of the curve. While others are shaken by change, they ride it. While others complain about disruption, they innovate through it. And that's value in its most durable form. So if you want to raise your value long term, be humble enough to learn, fast enough to change, and bold enough to keep reinventing yourself. Don't wait to be pushed by change. Be pulled by evolution. Because every time you stretch, every time you upgrade your perspective, your environment, your tools, your skills, you expand your capacity to serve. And service at its core is the root of all lasting value. When you adapt, you do more than survive. You lead. And people pay leaders not for their titles, but for their ability to move first, with clarity, courage, and creativity. Now let's talk about the furnace that refines all of this. Resilience. Because raising your value isn't a straight line. It's not always a rise. Sometimes it's a refining fire. You'll fail. You'll be overlooked. You'll be misunderstood. You'll make the wrong move, trust the wrong people, bet on the wrong opportunity. And if you're not careful, you'll start to question your worth. But here's what you must understand. Your value does not disappear just because the world doesn't recognize it yet. You are valuable, and setbacks don't subtract from that. They sculpt it. Every failure, proof that you're in the arena. Every rejection, a redirection. Every loss, a lesson, a rep in the gym of your evolution. Resilience is what lets you reinvest in your value, even when the world isn't clapping. It's the voice that says, Let's go again. It's the heart that beats steady, even when the world feels shaky. Resilience says, I am not here for the outcome. I am here for the becoming. And when you live that way, you become dangerous. Because the person who cannot be stopped, the person who keeps raising their value regardless of applause, regardless of adversity, regardless of delay, that person becomes unbeatable. Not because they're the smartest, not because they're the fastest, but because they're the last one standing. The most valuable thing you can ever become is someone who refuses to quit growing. That is how wealth is built. That is how freedom is earned. That is how legends are made. And you are becoming one. So stay in the fight. Refuse to shrink. Refuse to settle. Every day you keep growing, learning, adapting, serving, you compound your value. And when value compounds, everything changes. People start calling you instead of you chasing them. Opportunities start fitting you instead of you shrinking to fit them. You walk in rooms and your presence speaks louder than your resume. And why? Because you built it. You raised your value until the world had no choice but to raise its offer. And now we arrive at the summit, the climactic truth most never realize. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you've become, not what you hoped for, not what you wished for, not what you waited for. You get what you've built inside and out. And what you've built is a reflection of how much value you've created, how much you've expanded, how much you've endured, and how much you've raised your standards for who you are and how you show up in the world. Because this world, this beautiful, relentless, unforgiving world does not hand out rewards for presence. It pays for performance. It honors value. It elevates the useful, the courageous, the clear. And the more value you bring, the more lives you touch, the more problems you solve, the more excellence you embody, the higher you rise. You don't need a raise. You need to raise your expectations, your focus, your skill set, your execution, your vision, your voice, your contribution. Because once you raise your value truly, fully, unmistakably, the world has no choice but to raise its offer. They start asking for you. They start quoting you. They start building around you. Because now you are the standard. Now you don't hope for opportunity, you attract it. You don't beg for respect, you embody it. You don't need applause. Your work is the ovation. And listen closely. You may not be there yet. That's okay, because you're on the path. And the path is real. It's proven. It's walkable. Brick by brick. Step by step. One focused action at a time. But understand this. Every moment you wait for someone else to change your life, you forfeit the power to change it yourself. So stop waiting for a raise. Stop waiting for the boss to notice. Stop waiting for the economy to turn. Stop waiting for the world to be fair. Raise your value. Raise it in silence. Raise it in the dark. Raise it with intention, with effort, with integrity. Raise it when no one's watching. Raise it when you're tired. Raise it when you're doubting. Raise it until you become undeniable. And once you do, once the value inside you matches the greatness around you, that's when the money comes. That's when the freedom comes. That's when the rooms open. That's when the influence begins. And all of it started the day you decided to stop asking for more and started becoming more. So here's your final command. Raise your habits. Raise your thoughts. Raise your work. Raise your standards. Raise your relationships. Raise your execution. Raise your identity. Because when you raise your identity, you automatically raise your value. And when your value rises, the world will look at you differently, not because you begged for it, but because you earned it. Remember this. You don't need a raise. You need to raise your value. And once you do, the world will raise everything else around you to match the power of who you've become. You don't need to ask someone who they are. You don't need to listen to their speeches, read their goals, watch their highlight reels, or scroll through their curated posts. If you really want to know who someone is, look at their calendar, because your calendar is not just a schedule. It is a mirror. It reflects your values. It exposes your habits. It reveals, without apology or distortion, the blueprint of your real character. What you choose to give your time to is what you worship. And what you consistently neglect, that's what you silently betray. We can speak of dreams, but if there's no time blocked out to build them, those dreams are nothing but well-dressed lies. We can speak of family, of health, of legacy, but if they don't show up on the calendar, they don't show up in your life. That's the brutal, beautiful truth. Your calendar doesn't lie. Your calendar doesn't flatter. Your calendar doesn't care about your intentions. It only displays your integrity, because your character is not who you are when you're inspired. It's who you are when you plan. When you decide what deserves a slice of your 24 hours, that's where the real battle is. Not on the stage, not in the moment of crisis, but in the quiet, behind-the-scenes discipline of preparation. What you write down, what you commit to, what you schedule, that becomes your reality. You are not what you post. You are what you prioritize. Because here's the truth, no one wants to say, the people who build empires, who live with peace, who walk with power, they don't have more time than you. They just honor time more than you. They treat it like gold, like breath, like purpose in hours and minutes. And they protect it with ferocity, because they know time is not just currency, it's a vote. And every time you say yes to something, you're voting for a future. The question is, whose future are you voting for? Your growth or someone else's gossip? Your goals or someone else's crisis? Your legacy or your distractions? Because if your calendar is filled with things that don't reflect your values, you're not living a life, you're managing chaos. And chaos is where character goes to die. That's why the most powerful people on the planet don't just use a calendar, they live by it. They audit it. They defend it. They build a wall around what matters sand, eliminate what doesn't. Because they've learned, if you don't plan your priorities, the world will fill your schedule with theirs. And what's terrifying is how subtle it is. You don't wake up and decide to waste your life. You just forget to guard it. You leave your calendar open and the noise moves in. Meetings with no meaning, calls with no clarity, scrolling with no soul, tasks that check a box but don't move the needle. Before you know it, your life is full, but your purpose is starving. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can reclaim it. Right now, you can open your calendar and declare war on distraction. You can turn every block of time into a battlefield where you either win the hour or you lose your edge. Because every hour is a test. Every slot is a story. And the stories you schedule become the story of your life. So take back the pen. Fill your days with rituals, not reactions. Build time for silence, for study, for service, for strength. Make room for the person you're becoming, not just the obligations that drain you. And when someone asks who you are, don't speak. Show them your calendar. Show them what you made sacred. Because your schedule doesn't just predict your success. Your calendar predicts your character. Because what you consistently commit to is what you quietly become. Look again at your calendar, not with guilt, not with pride, but with clarity. Is it filled with distractions that keep you busy or disciplines that keep you becoming? Do you see a blueprint for mastery, a mosaic of motion with no meaning? Because motion isn't progress. Busy isn't productive. Availability isn't virtue. And a full schedule doesn't equal a full life. It's not how much you do, it's what you do that reveals who you are. It's the quiet commitments that no one sees. The non-negotiables you protect when the world throws chaos at your feet. It's waking up when you said you would. Working the plan you wrote when you were strong. Staying in motion when your feelings beg you to coast. That is character. And character doesn't explode into existence. It's crafted by what you do every single day, without applause, without cameras, without permission. So stop asking what the successful have that you don't. Ask what they schedule that you won't. Because while you're wishing, they're working. While you're planning someday, they're locking in today. While you're managing urgency, they're protecting their purpose. You say you want focus, but is there space for it? You say you want mastery, but is it booked? You say you want peace, but is it on your calendar or just a fantasy you scroll past while numbing out on your phone? Look closer. Where is your learning time? Where is your thinking time? Where is your strategy time? Where is your relationship building time? Where is your health, your soul, your future? Because if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. Wishing doesn't build wealth. Goals don't grow without structure. And life does not reward vague intentions. It rewards calendar-level clarity. It rewards those who understand. The calendar is not just a tool, it's a template for transformation. You want to know why some people seem so consistent? Why they always seem to have time? Why they get results while others get reasons? It's not magic, it's management. Time management. But deeper than that, it's self-management. And your calendar is where the truth shows up. Not the version you pretend to be. The version that actually exists. Because no matter what you say, you value. You don't value it unless it shows up in how you spend your time. And the deeper truth, you are always becoming what your calendar reflects. If it reflects laziness, you become lazy. If it reflects urgency, you become frantic. If it reflects alignment, you become powerful. So choose wisely. Every appointment is a contract. Every block of time is a brick in your identity. And eventually, that identity becomes your destiny. Because the life you want is not waiting on luck. It's waiting on alignment. And alignment is not found in grand intentions. It is carved into your calendar with surgical precision. Every minute is a mirror. Every hour is a vote. And if you've been casting votes for comfort, for distraction, for delay, then don't be shocked when your life feels misaligned. You cast those ballots. You chose to fill your day with things that starve your soul and feed your ego. But you can change your vote today. You can reclaim every block of time that's been rented out to the lowest bidder. You can pull your purpose back from the noise. You can take your calendar and make it a battle plan. Not just for productivity, but for peace. Because peace doesn't come from empty hours. It comes from earned alignment. From knowing that what you said mattered enough to schedule. Mattered enough to protect. Mattered enough to put on the map of your life like a sacred landmark. And the people who feel peace, they're not the ones with the most time. They're the ones who own it. They don't live by accident, they live by appointment. They don't let the urgent shove out the essential. They don't let the inbox dictate the vision. They decide what deserves a place in their day and eliminate the rest. That's leadership, not just of others, but of yourself. Because if you can't lead your calendar, you can't lead your future. You can't walk in purpose if your day is ruled by pings, by scrolls, by random requests from people who do not carry the weight of your vision. You are not here to be available. You are here to be effective. And effectiveness begins when you stop letting time leak from the seams of indecision. So get ruthless. Audit your schedule like your life depends on it, because it does. And ask yourself, hour by hour, does this grow me? Does this serve me? Does this reflect who I said I wanted to be? And if it doesn't cut it, no guilt, no apology, no delay. Because the world will always ask for more than it deserves. And your job is not to please it. Your job is to protect the flame, the fire inside you that flickers when you're aligned and fades when you're spread thin. Because if you spread yourself too thin, you disappear. And if you disappear from your own calendar, you disappear from your own calling. But not you. Not anymore. You are now the architect. You are now the author. And your calendar is no longer a list of demands. It is a declaration of who you are becoming. Then let the fire sharpen. Because this moment is not about managing minutes, it's about mastering meaning. You are not just creating a schedule. You are sculpting your standards. You are no longer reacting to time. You are redeeming it, pulling it back from the hands of distraction, pulling it back from the jaws of other people's expectations, pulling it back from the noise that kept you moving, but never arriving. Because now you understand. Busyness is the enemy of clarity. And if your calendar is full, but your spirit is empty, then something sacred has been sold off for cheap. This is where the war begins, not against the world, but against the version of you that let life happen instead of happening to life. That version is dead now. The new you don't chase time. You command it. You show up to each day with intention burning in your chest like a torch, lighting the path that others are still searching for in the dark. Because your character, your real character is not revealed when you speak. It's revealed when no one is watching and you still do the work. It's revealed when you open your calendar and there's proof of your purpose there, not just clutter, not just chaos, but proof that you've already decided who you are. It's in the workout you booked because your health matters. It's in the reading you scheduled because your mind matters. It's in the reflection time you carved out because your soul matters. It's in the conversations you prioritized because love and leadership are built in presence, not just performance. And when you stack enough of those moments together, you don't just have a productive week. You have a life of alignment. And alignment, it radiates. People will feel it when you walk in. They'll sense it in your silence. They'll hear it in your words. Because it's rare. Rare to meet someone whose schedule reflects their soul. Rare to find someone who protects their time like their destiny depends on it, because it does. Rare to see someone who no longer worships the grind but honors the mission. You are that person now. You don't chase every opportunity. You select them. You don't say yes to noise. You say yes to necessity. You don't need to explain your boundaries, your results. Explain them for you. Because you are now a person of rhythm, of structure, of alignment. And your calendar, it no longer predicts confusion. It predicts character. It predicts who you are becoming. And every day, it delivers a message. I know where I'm going. I know what matters. I know who I am. And nothing is more powerful than that. Because when you truly know who you are, your calendar becomes your covenant. It becomes a sacred contract between your present actions and your future identity. No longer ruled by the chaos of convenience. No longer swayed by every distraction that flashes like a false god in the face of your focus. Now your time is spoken for. Your hours are no longer up for auction. Your priorities are no longer negotiable. You've built a rhythm that aligns with your reality, and you don't break rhythm for temporary relief. Because now you understand. The difference between the great and the forgotten is not found in intensity. It's found in repetition. Greatness isn't built in the highlight reels. It's forged in the hidden hours you blocked off when everyone else slept. It's found in the calendar entries no one claps for. Read, write, think, train, call mom, drink water, plan tomorrow. The world sees none of it. But your character is sculpted by all of it. Because your habits are a prophecy. Your calendar is not just where your time goes, it's where your life grows. And if you let just anyone or anything right in that sacred space, then you are handing over your future to forces that care nothing about your fulfillment. That's not noble. That's not generous. That's self-betrayal. Because every yes you give to the unnecessary is a no to what actually matters. And that slow bleed of attention, of presence, of energy, it kills legacies before they're even born. But you've put a wall around your garden now. You've chosen discipline over popularity, focus over flattery, design over drift. And it shows in the quality of your work, the sharpness of your mind, the steadiness of your soul, the peace that follows people who are unavailable for nonsense. Because when you decide your time is sacred, the world adjusts. It respects what you enforce, so enforce it. Let your calendar become a gate, not a revolving door. Let it reflect your highest self, not your loudest insecurities. Let it be your silent declaration that you will no longer live on accident, because you have chosen alignment. And every entry on that calendar, every quiet block of time is you saying, I am worthy of this hour. I am ready for this level. I am building a life that will outlive me. And that is how your calendar becomes your character, and your character becomes your crown. Because your crown isn't something placed upon your head. It's something placed upon your habits. It's not worn with pride dates, earned with precision. And every crown is carved from consistency. Every ounce of respect you command, every room you walk into where the air shifts, every goal that doesn't just inspire you but obeys you, it's all traced back to the structure of your days, to how ruthlessly you protected the morning, to how fiercely you guarded the afternoon, to how intentionally you ended your nights not with distraction, but with direction. Because direction doesn't scream. It schedules. It writes things down. It knows that without a plan, purpose starves. Without a calendar, conviction fades. Without discipline, dreams drift into the graveyard of good intentions. So you stopped trying to find time. You started making time. Because people who find time live like scavengers. But people who make time, they live like sculptors. They chisel away at the unnecessary. They carve space for peace. They cut the fat and leave only the essentials. Because they understand time is not just a resource. It's a refinement. How you use it defines how sharp you are, how effective you are, how dangerous you are to every obstacle that once stood in your way. And when you live like this long enough, your calendar stops being just a tool. It becomes a testimony, not of how much you do, but of who you've become. Because real character is not built in public. It's built at 5:00 a.m. It's built when you turn off the phone to turn on your mind. It's built when you skip the party to build the plan. It's built when you say no to what's popular, to say yes to what's personal. And personal greatness, it doesn't beg for attention. It moves in alignment so deeply that the results speak in a voice louder than your own. Because the strongest people you know, the most grounded, the most focused, the most unstoppable, they're not the busiest. They're the most aligned. And that alignment, it was booked on a calendar long before it was seen on a stage. So if you want to know what kind of life you're creating, don't look in the mirror. Look at the schedule. That's the real reflection. That's the real version of you. The version that either honors the future or delays it. The version that either compounds strength or leaks energy. The version that either leads or lingers. So choose now and choose daily. What kind of life are you scheduling? Because that's the kind of life you're living. Then brace yourself. Because what comes next is not just a reminder, it's a reckoning. Because one day, the clock will run out. And when it does, you won't be judged by what you meant to do. You won't be remembered for what you hoped would happen. You'll be remembered for what you showed up for what you made time for what you sacrificed for, and most of all, for what you were willing to schedule when it was easier to sleep, easier to scroll, easier to stall. Your calendar is your confessional. It tells the truth when your words lie. It tells the truth when your excuses dress themselves as logic. It tells the truth when your ambition pretends it's action. Because you don't rise to your level of intention. You rise or fall to the level of your systems. And your calendar, that's the system of your soul. It tells the world what you really care about. It tells the future, whether you're ready or just rehearsing. It tells you whether you are walking in alignment or just surviving on adrenaline. So ask you seriously, silently, right now, Does my calendar reflect my courage or my comfort? Does it reflect my conviction or my confusion? Does it reflect my legacy or my laziness? Because there will be a day not far from now when someone opens your calendar after you're gone. And it won't just be an archive of appointments. It will be an autopsy of your existence. It will show where your time went, where your life was spent, where your energy flowed. And it will answer the question, did they matter? Not just in intention, but in impact. And that impact, it starts now. It starts with the next block of time. It starts with you looking at your schedule and no longer seeing it as a burden, but as a blueprint. You don't need another guru. You don't need another book. You need to own your hours. Because once you do, the world changes. Your results shift. Your clarity sharpens. Your habits harden. And you become a force. The kind of force that doesn't beg for time. The kind of force that doesn't explain why they're unavailable for mediocrity. The kind of force that moves through the world with precision, purpose, and a plan that's already booked. You are that force now. Because you've remembered, your calendar is more than a tool. It is the altar of your alignment. It is the mirror of your mission. It is the map of your meaning. And now, you live by it with such clarity, such consistency, such conviction, that when someone asks what defines their character, all they'll have to do is look at your calendar, and the answer will be clear. Because you didn't just talk about purpose. You scheduled it. You protected it. You became it. And now, you don't just manage time. You master yourself. That is character. That is power. That is legacy. What you do today echoes forever. Let that sentence sink in, not just into your mind, but deep into your bones. Because it's not some poetic phrase designed to inspire you for a few fleeting moments. It is the law of life, the law of results, the law that separates the fulfilled from the forgotten. If you were to take everything you've ever wanted, every dream, every desire, every whispered ambition, you were too scared to say out loud and ask, what determines whether or not I get to hold this in my hands? The answer is your daily agenda. Not the grand goals you scribbled in a notebook. Not the vision board above your desk. Not the hope or the prayer or the mood you're in. Your agenda. The quiet, unsexy, invisible rhythm of what you choose to do when no one is watching. That sacred structure of how you spend your time, it doesn't just reflect who you are. It shapes who you become. And there is no escaping this truth. What you do daily, you become permanently. Your agenda is not just a schedule. It is a script, a blueprint, a prophecy. If you want to know where your life is heading, don't look at your dreams. Look at your calendar. Because here's the truth they don't teach you in school. Success doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things every single day. And failure doesn't come from doing nothing. It comes from doing almost everything except what matters. So let's cut the noise and strip it to the bone. Your destiny is not some distant date circled on a calendar. It is here. It is now. It is every minute you let slip into mindless consumption. Every hour lost to distraction. Every day spent being busy instead of building. Your destiny is a mirror, and your agenda is the hand that shapes its reflection. You don't need more time. You need more clarity. You don't need motivation. You need alignment. You don't need permission. You need priorities. Because your mind, if left unchecked, will betray you. It will convince you to scroll when you should be studying. It will beg for comfort when you should be chasing growth. It will feed you 1,000 small justifications for why tomorrow is better. But understand this, your mind is not your master. It is your servant. And if you don't program it with intention, it will default to distraction. That's why your daily agenda isn't just a habit, it's a declaration. A stand you take against chaos. A refusal to be another wandering soul waiting for life to happen. It's the discipline to decide that you will happen to life. And what does that agenda look like? It starts in the silence before the world wakes. It begins in those first fragile moments of the morning, when your will is strongest and your mind is clearest. That's when warriors are made. Not when the sun is high and the noise is loud, but in the early hours where the weak are still sleeping and the future is still soft. What you do in the morning is a message to the universe. This is who I am becoming. So wake with intention. Don't check your phone, check your purpose. Don't scroll center. Don't react, create. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. It comes from structure. From putting on the armor of a well-planned day and stepping into the battlefield of life ready to dominate, not drift. Write it down. Review it. Live it. Your agenda should not be a suggestion. It should be a command. Ruthless in what it allows. Relentless in what it prioritizes. Because time is not just ticking. It's a blade. Every second that passes is slicing through what could have been. If you don't own the day will own you. And here's a truth few are willing to face. Most people are not lazy. They are just unaligned. They're chasing 10 different dreams with 100 different distractions, wondering why they feel exhausted but go nowhere, like a man trying to sail in every direction at once. But you, if you dare to align your daily agenda with your deepest mission, you become unstoppable. Because now every step you take is not just motion, it's momentum. Every action you take is not just a task, it's transformation. This is where belief begins. In the consistency of your action, in the pattern of your discipline. You don't believe in yourself just because someone tells you you're great. You believe in yourself when you've watched yourself follow through. When you say, I will do this. And then you do it again and again and again. That's how confidence is built. Not in grand achievements, but in the quiet conviction that you are the kind of person who shows up for your goals, for your health, for your craft, for your legacy. Don't wait to feel ready. Readiness is a myth. Action is what creates readiness. Discipline is what builds certainty. You want to feel motivated? Stop watching motivational videos and start living a motivational life. One filled with early mornings, deep focus, hard decisions, and daily wins. You want to build an extraordinary life? Don't start with goals. Start with systems. Start with the structure that holds your days in place when motivation fades. Build a life where excellence is your default, not your exception. But let me be clear. This is not about productivity for the sake of hustle. This is not about filling every second of your day with busyness. No, it's about mastering your time so you can be free. Free to create, free to grow, free to rest without guilt. Free to live your vision, not someone else's. Because when your agenda reflects your highest values, your life becomes aligned. And an aligned life is a powerful life, a magnetic life, a life that moves people and mountains alike. But that requires vigilance. Your agenda is a garden. If you do not tend it, weeds will grow. Weeds of distraction, weeds of obligation, weeds of guilt and comparison and noise. Protect your garden. Guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. Say no more often. Cut ruthlessly. Eliminate the unnecessary. Every yes to distraction is a no to destiny. Every compromise chips away at the masterpiece you're building. Be brutal with your time, because the world is not. You were not born to manage chaos. You were born to create order. Not order that suffocates, but order that liberates. That gives your creativity direction, your energy a target, your days a fire that forges greatness. And when you begin to live this way intentionally, fiercely, faithfully, everything begins to change. Not overnight, not with fireworks, but slowly, quietly, powerfully. Because your daily agenda predicts your destiny. And once that agenda becomes sacred, so does your future. The world will try to seduce you with the urgent, the loud, the endless buzz of things that look important but mean nothing. Notifications that scream for your attention. Obligations that whisper, just this once. And before you know it, you are busy, but not becoming. You are moving, but not mastering. You are exhausted, and yet empty. That's the trap. The daily erosion of your essence by 1,000 meaningless tasks. And the only antidote is sacred structure. Sacred not because it's rigid, not because it's perfect, but because it is intentional, because it reflects a choice, a decision to stop drifting and start designing. And that design begins with the most sacred space of all, your mornings. What does your morning say about your mission? Do you rise like someone chasing destiny, or do you stumble into the day like someone escaping themselves? The difference between average and elite is not talent. It's not even luck. It's what they do before 9 a.m. The elite win the day before the world even wakes, not because it's easy, but because it's required. Because they understand you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And those systems begin with the decision to take yourself seriously, to stop negotiating with your excuses, to stop letting the moods of the moment sabotage the vision of your life. You see, the life you want is already built, already real. It exists in the dimension of decisions. And every disciplined decision you make, every moment you choose, structure over chaos, purpose over pleasure, clarity over comfort pulls that life from the abstract into the concrete. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become who you really are beneath the noise. And the path to that person is paved with action, not thought, not theory, not potential. Action. Let the world debate. Let them argue about the best method, the perfect tool, the ideal strategy. While they talk, you move. While they wait, you work. While they hesitate, you execute. Because it is not the best plan that wins, it's the one that's implemented with obsession. Understand this. There is a rhythm to success. And once you lock into it, everything changes. You begin to feel it in your bones. That you are no longer reacting to life, but directing it. That you are not a passenger in your story, but the architect. And your agenda is your blueprint. Every hour accounted for. Every block of time assigned to something that feeds your fire. Whether it's learning, building, creating, reflecting it, all compounds. Every small act of alignment becomes a brick in the empire you're constructing. And here's where the magic begins. When you do this long enough, it no longer takes effort. It becomes identity. You no longer need to force focus. You are focused. You no longer wrestle with discipline. You are disciplined. It's not something you do. It's who you are. But that identity is not given. It is earned. And the currency is consistency. So let me ask you a hard question. What is your agenda saying about you? What does it say about what you truly value? What does it reveal about who you are becoming? If someone looked at your last 7 days, not your words, not your intentions, but your actions, would they see a leader, a creator, a visionary? Or would they see someone lost in the fog of indecision and distraction? This is not about shame. This is about awakening. Because once you see it, you can change it. Once you realize that your schedule is not just time, it is identity, you take back control. This is where power lives, not in the extremes, but in the daily, the repeatable, the predictable. Power is not found in chaos. It is found in the consistent alignment of thought, word, and deed. So organize your life like someone with a mission. Move like someone who knows. Their future is too big for small habits. Speak like someone who understands the weight of their words. And structure your day like someone who refuses to waste another moment on mediocrity. There are 2 types of pain in life. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One weighs ounces, the other tons. Choose wisely. Because success is not a finish line, it is a lifestyle. And that lifestyle is born in the furnace of your daily routine. Not when things are easy, but especially when they are hard. When you wake up tired, when the world pulls at you, when motivation fades and no one is cheering. That's the moment where greatness is forged. Not in the light, but in the shadows. Not in applause, but in silence. Not in comfort, but in commitment. And you don't need a perfect day to do this. You just need a pattern, a standard, a system that says, this is who I am, this is how I move, this is the mission I serve. Because a scattered agenda creates a scattered identity. But a structured day creates a solid self. And once that self is solidence, you know who you are, and how you move and nothing can stop you. Not rejection, not failure, not criticism, because your foundation is deeper than their opinion. Your system is stronger than their doubt. You become inevitable, not because you're special, but because you've made success your rhythm, because you've built your days on purpose, with purpose, and now your calendar becomes your covenant, a sacred promise to yourself that mediocrity will not be your story. So wake up, lock in, build your day like it builds your life, because it does. The storm will come. Distractions will rise like waves, crashing against the shores of your focus. Unexpected demands will knock at your door, urgent and uninvited. Life will test you not once, but constantly. And when it does, only one thing will keep you standing: the integrity of your daily agenda. Not your passion. That fades. Not your inspiration. That drifts. Not your mood. That lies. It is your structure, your system, your devotion to doing what needs to be done, no matter how you feel. That will hold the line when the chaos comes. That is where real strength lives, not in your intensity, but in your consistency. And understand this: most people don't fail because they aim too high. They fail because they aim too rarely. They set big goals and visit them once a year. But those who rise to the top, they review their mission daily. They build their life around reminders, around structure, around repetition. Because repetition is the language of mastery. They don't treat their dream like a hobby, they treat it like a duty. And so must you. Every morning, recommit, not with emotion, but with execution. Recommit in how you eat, how you move, how you think, how you speak, how you act. Let your day be a sermon of your standards. Because what you repeat becomes who you are, and what you tolerate becomes your truth. If you tolerate disorder, don't be surprised when your life feels chaotic. If you tolerate laziness, don't be shocked when results don't show up. If you tolerate distraction, don't complain when your vision grows dim. You teach the world how to treat you by how you treat your time. If your calendar is cluttered, if your days are reactive, if your routines are accidental, your results will be too. So build your day like a craftsman, not a consumer. Create blocks of time that are protected, not polluted. Build sacred space for focus, for reflection, for creation, for growth. Don't fill your day, forge it. And let me remind you of something sacred. It's not just about what you're doing. It's about who you're becoming while doing it. Because every task, no matter how small, carries with it the power to train your character. When you follow through on the workout you didn't want to do, you train discipline. When you start writing, even though you're uninspired, you train courage. When you stick to your budget when it would feel good to splurge, you train wisdom. When you say no to the noise and yes to your plan, you train identity. And all of this happens in the mundane, in the repetition, in the silence. You won't always feel the change day to day, but give it a season and your entire life transforms. It's like planting a seed. You water, you nurture, you wait. And for a while it looks like nothing is happening, but beneath the surface roots are growing, a foundation is forming. And one day it breaks through, not by magic, but by compounding. Your daily agenda is that soil, and what you plant in it you will one day harvest. So choose wisely. Do not plant weeds and expect flowers. Do not scatter your time and expect results. Choose habits that echo with purpose. Choose actions that align with your vision. Choose days that speak your destiny into existence. You want a rich life? Make rich days. Days rich with intention, rich with progress, rich with presence. Because no one arrives at greatness by accident. They arrive by design. By deliberate days stacked one on top of another until excellence becomes inevitable. And yes, it will be hard. It will be inconvenient. It will require sacrifice. But what's the alternative? Regret? Mediocrity? A life spent wondering what could have been if you just got serious? No. Not you. Not now. You are here because something in you knows there's more. Knows that your potential is not some abstract concept, it's a fire waiting to be fueled. And the fuel is simple. Do the work daily, unapologetically, without permission, without perfect conditions. Because waiting for the perfect moment is the fastest way to watch your life pass you by. The only perfect moment is the one you claim, the one you shape with your decisions, the one you own by what you do right now. So ask yourself, if I live this day on repeat, what kind of life would it produce? If that question rattles you good, it means you're waking up. It means the illusion is breaking. It means you're ready to shift from wishing to working, from dreaming to designing, from hoping to executing. The bridge between where you are and where you want to be is not talent. It's not luck. It's not even opportunity. It's consistency. Brick by brick, task by task, day by day, build the bridge. And don't just build it with speed, build it with soul, with presence, with excellence. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And every action you take is casting a vote for the person you want to become. So cast wisely, vote daily, show up like your future depends on it, because it does. Your legacy is not written in grand gestures. It is etched in ordinary days, lived with extraordinary purpose. This is the truth few accept. Your agenda is your autobiography. It's the story your future will read, the story your results will reflect, the story your character will become. So write that story with fire, with focus, with the kind of resolve that bends reality. Let every hour scream, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, this is what I will become. And when you live like that, when your agenda becomes a masterpiece of purpose, then yes, your destiny becomes unstoppable. There comes a point when the world stops believing in promises and starts watching patterns. The people around you, the forces above you, the dreams within you, they are not responding to your words. They are responding to your rhythm, your consistency, your unwavering, undeniable, unstoppable pattern. You want to be respected? Build a pattern. You want to be trusted? Build a pattern. You want to be legendary? Build a pattern. Not of perfection, but of presence, of resilience, of rising again and again and again until life bends to the will of your schedule, until results no longer surprise you, they simply reflect you. Because what the world calls magic, the disciplined call routine. What they call breakthrough, the focused call Tuesday. And what they call success, the committed call, inevitable. Let that word settle. Inevitable. Not lucky, not sudden, not dramatic, but earned, constructed, engineered by hundreds, thousands of days done right. Days that most people would have wasted. Days that looked boring on the outside, but burned with intention on the inside. Because that's where greatness hides in repetition. In the silent, sweaty hours when you choose growth over gossip, vision over vices, clarity over comfort. Every minute has a consequence. Every day is a vote. And the universe is always listening not to your declarations, but to your discipline. And here's the brutal truth. You cannot escape your own habits. You will never outdream a broken system. You will never outrun a lazy morning. You will never outtalk a day that you let run you. So stop negotiating with the day. Conquer it. When you wake up, don't ask what the day has in store for you. Tell it what you have in store for it. You are not the victim of time, you are the commander of it. This is not arrogance. This is authority. You were given 24 hours just like the giants before you. Einstein had 24. Da Vinci had 24. Jim Rohn had 24. What made the difference wasn't more time, it was more intention. So build a daily code, a standard that becomes untouchable, a way of life that no distraction, no failure, no mood can take from you. And guard it like your soul depends on it, because in a way it does. And when it gets hard, and it will remember, resistance is the price of transformation. The more aligned your day becomes with your purpose, the more resistance you will feel. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally doing something right. Growth is not smooth. It is jagged. It is painful. It is sacred. Your mind will protest. Your body will beg. Your environment will push back. But you must hold the line. You must hold the schedule. You must hold the standard. And then like dawn breaking through the night, it changes. You start becoming unrecognizable to your past, to your doubters, even to yourself. Because now you don't just talk different, you walk different. You think with clarity. You move with force. You rest with peace. Your life becomes ordered, not out of control. Designed, not chaotic. Powerful, not passive. And people will ask you how. They'll say you're lucky. They'll say you're gifted. They'll say, it just happened for you. But you'll know. It was the daily grind. It was the small, silent, uncelebrated wins. It was the refusal to waste one more hour in mediocrity. It was the decision to own your agenda before the world could write it for you. And when you look back years from now at the life you built, the impact you made, the legacy you leave, you will not thank the easy days. You will thank the structured ones, the hard ones, the lonely ones, the ones where no one was watching, but you showed up anyway. That's when it counted. That's when the seeds of destiny were planted. In the calendar you once ignored, in the minutes you used to waste, in the silence you finally respected. So rise. Structure your day like it matters, because it does. Move through your hours like they are gold, because they are. And never again let another sunset catch you wandering. Wanderers don't leave legacies. Architects do. This is your blueprint, your map, your schedule. This is not a planner. This is prophecy. Your agenda predicts your destiny, so write wisely, live fiercely, and guard your time like your life depends on it. Because it absolutely does. And when the dust settles, when all the noise fades, you'll realize something profound. Something that changes how you walk through every doorway, how you sit with yourself in the quiet, how you lead, how you love, how you live. That freedom, real, lasting, soul-deep freedom, does not come from chaos. It comes from order, the kind of order you design, not the one imposed on you. The kind of structure you choose, not the one forced upon you by panic and deadlines and emergencies. Because let's be honest, if you don't plan your life, someone else will. The world is full of people who would love to hijack your time, full of agendas waiting for an open calendar, full of companies, apps, ads, and even well-meaning friends ready to insert themselves into your space if you leave the door open. But when you step into life with a locked-in, purpose-driven agenda, you send a message to the universe. This time is taken by vision, taken by discipline, taken by purpose. And suddenly, the distractions shrink, the temptations fade, the fog begins to lift. Not because life got easier, but because you got aligned. Alignment is power. Alignment is peace. Alignment is clarity. When your daily actions mirror your highest values, you no longer need motivation. Your life becomes a reflection of your truth, and truth does not need hype. It only needs honor. So start honoring your time like it's sacred. Start treating your goals like they deserve to live. Stop scheduling yourself around obligation and start structuring around becoming. You are not just trying to stay afloat, you are building a vessel. One that will carry you through every storm, every failure, every drought. And that vessel is not built in a single moment of motivation. It's built in the rhythm of responsibility. Brick by brick, block by block, hour by sacred hour. So ask yourself, again, is your daily agenda strong enough to carry the weight of your destiny? If not, rebuild it. Don't adjust your dreams, adjust your days. Don't lower the berets your routine. Because if your agenda doesn't respect your future, it will rob it. It will steal it in the small moments, in the just 5 minutes, in the I'll start tomorrow. Let today be the day you burn the bridge to someday. Let today be the day you stop treating your dream like it's optional. Let today be the day you stop asking for signs and start becoming one. The sign of commitment. The sign of consistency. The sign of someone who chose to master time before time mastered them. And when people look at your life and ask, How did you do it? You'll smile not because it was easy, but because it was earned. Earned in the quiet mornings. Earned in the repeated disciplines. Earned in the moments you stuck to your structure, even when your feelings screamed for comfort. That's when you'll know. Success is not a finish line. It's a rhythm, a pulse, a pattern of power repeated daily until your identity becomes undeniable. Not a wish, not a fluke, not a hope, but a reality you designed with the hands of discipline. And when you look at the empire you've built, when you see the respect, the freedom, the wealth, the impact, you'll know it all started with one ordinary day, one deliberate morning, one sacred agenda. That's the power of now. That's the miracle of repetition. That's the destiny written not in stars, but in schedules. So write it, live it, protect it. Because in the end, it's not your dreams that define your future. It's what you do between 6 a.m. and midnight. And when your daily agenda becomes non-negotiable, your destiny becomes inevitable. And when it all comes together, when the structure aligns with your soul, when your hours reflect your hunger, when your actions mirror your ambition, then time bends to your will. You move differently. You speak with conviction. You walk into rooms with presence. You no longer chase opportunities, they find you. Because power gravitates toward clarity. And clarity is forged in structure. There is no mystery to mastery. It is mundane. It is monotonous. It is magnificently boring. But boring builds empires. Think about it. The athlete who dominates the world isn't doing 1,000 different workouts. They're doing the same reps with obsession. The writer whose words pierce the soul isn't chasing inspiration. They're showing up to the blank page every single morning without fail. The entrepreneur who builds generational wealth isn't gambling on moments, they're managing minutes. You want to win in life? Fall in love with the rhythm. Fall in love with the ordinary until it becomes extraordinary. Let your habits hum with harmony until your life becomes a song of purpose. Because real power is quiet. It doesn't scream. It doesn't post. It doesn't beg for attention. It wakes up, does the work, and builds a life so rich, so deep, so unshakable that it speaks for itself. And yes, it will be lonely at times. Because few are willing to walk this road. They want the rewards, but not the requirements. They want the praise, but not the process. They want the feeling, but not the formula. But you are not like them. You have decided. You have declared. You have drawn the line. And from this moment forward, your days will not be wasted. They will be woven like a craftsman at the loom, each thread laid with care, each choice building a pattern, each block of time building a legacy. Because one day, yes, one day someone will look at your life and say, they were born for this. But you'll know the truth. You weren't born for this. You built this one decision at a time, one disciplined day at a time. One iron-willed morning after another. That is the difference between dreams and destiny. Not what you wish would happen, but what you make happen. So take back your time. Design your days. And let your calendar become a mirror of your mission. You don't need more hours. You need more intention. You don't need more motivation. You need more momentum. You don't need more inspiration. You need more implementation. Because the world doesn't reward potential. It rewards proof, and proof lives in your patterns. So write your legacy in the language of discipline. Etch your greatness into your agenda, and let every hour declare the truth, that this life is yours, that this mission is non-negotiable, and that your destiny is not a dream waiting to be wished for, it is a fire waiting to be lived. Because here's what most never understand. Your destiny isn't some finish line you stumble upon in a flash of brilliance. It's something you construct brick by brick, decision by decision, hour by hour. And if you look closely, the ones who win in life, the ones who make it look effortless, they're not frantic. They're not flailing. They're fluent in their own rhythm. They wake up with fire, not because they're always motivated, but because their structure demands it. They create even when it's hard, not because it's always fun, but because their schedule commands it. They execute even when it's boring, not because they're special, but because they refuse to negotiate with average. And that's what this is about. Refusing to negotiate. Refusing to let temporary emotions rewrite your eternal mission. Refusing to let the small you hijack the future you. Because the truth is this: every time you skip the hard thing, you strengthen the weak voice. Every time you delay what matters, you drift further from who you're meant to be. Every time you say, just this once, your standard slips. And soon the exception becomes your identity. But when your agenda becomes sacred, when your calendar becomes a canvas painted with purpose, when your hours bow to your highest self, then you don't just manage time. You master it. You become dangerous to mediocrity, to doubt, to the version of you that almost made it. Because suddenly, the question is no longer, what do I feel like doing today? The question becomes, what would the future me do in this exact moment? Would they sleep in? Would they skip the reps? Would they scroll or study? Would they complain or create? Would they react or rise? When your days are directed by your future self, your present self stops getting in the way. And that's when everything changes. You start speaking differently. You start moving with certainty. You start executing like someone who already knows the outcome because they've written it. In sweat, in silence, in schedule. And while the world keeps asking for hacks, you've built a habit. While others search for shortcuts, you've found the straightest path, consistency. And while they're still trying to get focused, you've become focus. That's what this is. Not a tactic, not a tip, not a temporary fix. This is an identity shift from reactive to proactive, from scattered to structured, from uncertain to unstoppable. You no longer let the day decide who you are. You decide the day. Before it begins, before the chaos, before the excuses show up to negotiate, because you're not building a life you tolerate. You're building a life that demands respect. And the foundation of that life is your daily rhythm. So protect it. Guard it like royalty guards the crown. Feed it like a flame that will die without fuel, because your energy follows your structure. Your confidence follows your routine. Your wealth, your health, your peace, your legacy, they all bow to your agenda. And every moment that you treat that agenda with honor, you earn a piece of the life you once thought was impossible. But make no mistake, this is not about control. This is about freedom. Freedom to create without distraction. Freedom to rest without guilt. Freedom to live in such alignment that even your stillness has power. That kind of freedom, it is bought with discipline, with saying no when it's uncomfortable, with doing what matters when no one is watching, with living like your legacy depends on it, because it does. So from this moment on, let your life be a reflection of a new law, that your calendar is your compass, that your hours are your home, that your habits are holy, and that every day you show up, every task you complete, every priority you honor, you are not just checking off a list. You are building a future that cannot be denied. You are not chasing success. You are becoming it. And as you keep showing up day after day, task after task, something remarkable happens. The world begins to shift around you. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach start gravitating toward your orbit. Not because you begged for them, not because you posted about how hard you're grinding, but because your energy has changed. Your standard has changed. Your aura has changed. People feel it even if they can't explain it. They see it in your eyes. They hear it in your voice. They sense the power of someone who knows exactly what they're doing here. You are no longer moving through life hoping to find purpose. You bring purpose into every room. You don't look for permission. You carry authority because your discipline speaks louder than any introduction ever could. And let's be clear, this isn't about being busy. Busy is a lie. The unfocused tell themselves to feel important. This is about being intentional, about doing less, but doing it with absolute domination, about identifying the vital few and eliminating the trivial many. Because success isn't built on volume, it's built on precision. Every day you ask, what moves the needle? What makes me sharper? What compounds over time? And then you do that ruthlessly, relentlessly, repeatedly. Because results are not born in intensity, they're born in iteration. Not in doing everything once, but in doing the essential things forever. This is how legacies are built. Not in spurts of inspiration, but in systems of execution. Systems that run even when you're tired, even when you're doubting, even when everything feels heavy. You fall back not on motivation, but on mastery. The structure catches you. The rhythm rescues you. The agenda carries you. And now, you're no longer building from scratch each day. You're building on top of momentum. You're stacking wins. You're compounding power. And soon, you've become someone they said was lucky. Someone they claim had the right timing. Someone they always knew would make it. But they didn't see the days you kept your structure when chaos was easier. They didn't see the nights you stuck to the plan when comfort was calling. They didn't see the mornings you rose when everyone else rolled over. You saw that. You lived that. And you earned this. Because destiny doesn't arrive in a flash. It grows in the shadows, in the repetition, in the rituals. So if you want to change your future, don't change your life. Change your day. Write it with the precision of a warrior. Execute it with the heart of a lion. Protect it with the discipline of a king. And you will rise. You will rise not as someone who got lucky, but as someone who became inevitable. Because your daily agenda didn't just predict your destiny. It created it. And now, the question is no longer if you will succeed. The question is how far you are willing to go. How long you are willing to hold the line. How deeply you are willing to stay rooted when the winds of life try to bend you. Because make no mistake, they will come. Distractions will disguise themselves as opportunities. Comfort will whisper in moments of fatigue. Doubt will masquerade as logic. But you won't flinch because your life is no longer run by emotion. It's run by design. You've built too much. You've sacrificed too much. You've come too far to throw it away for temporary satisfaction. Because the old version of you, the one that made excuses, that broke promises, that sabotaged progress when it got uncomfortable, is gone. Buried in the graveyard of yesterday's patterns. What walks through your days now is a force. Focused, fierce, final. You've reached the point where structure is no longer a burden. It's your freedom. Where discipline is no longer punishment, it's your power. You no longer need the external to push you. The fire burns within. And that fire is fed by something bigger than goals, bigger than checklists, bigger than applause. It's fed by legacy. The kind of legacy that doesn't fade when the money's spent. The kind of legacy that lives in how you made people feel, in how you move through life with courage, in the example you set, in the standard you walked in every single day. Because what if you're not just building success for yourself? What if your discipline becomes the inheritance for generations who will never meet you, but will be influenced by the life you built? What if your children grow up thinking excellence is normal because you made it so? What if your habits outlive you? What if your schedule becomes scripture for someone else's breakthrough? This is what you're fighting for. Not just results, but ripple. You don't just rise for yourself. You rise for everyone who will one day be changed because you refuse to be average, because you refused to surrender your days to noise, because you refuse to let another hour pass without purpose. And when the world tries to sell chaos as cool, when they glorify hustle without healing, distraction without direction, motion without meaning. You will walk the other way with poise, with calm, with precision, because you're not just building a business. You're not just chasing success. You're not just reaching goals. You are sculpting a soul. You are designing a destiny. You are moving through time as a living declaration. I was here, I mattered, and I built this. Every hour, a signature. Every day, a declaration. Every week, a wall in the fortress of your becoming. You've chosen the rare road, the road of integrity, the road of sovereignty, the road of those who don't just dream, they deliver. And as you keep walking, with that agenda in hand, with that rhythm in your bones, with that purpose stamped on every single second, you will feel it. That sense of internal peace, not because everything is easy, but because you are in alignment. That's what structure gives you. Not just results, but revelation. Not just income, but inner power. Not just wins, but a warrior's peace. So rise again tomorrow. Review your plan. Refine your focus. Recommit to the rhythm, because the path is clear. The system is sound. The vision is alive. And now, so are you. A roar from the depths of your soul. A roar that says, I am no longer a servant to time. I am a sculptor of destiny. This is your life. Right here. Right now. No more waiting. No more wondering. No more wavering. You have everything you need. Not someday. Not when it's easier. Not when you feel ready. Now, the discipline is inside you. The clarity is inside you. The power to rise and reorder the chaos of life with calm command. It's not out there. It's in your hands. And it always has been. It just needed a plan. It needed a rhythm. It needed an agenda that treated your time like gold, because it is. And when you begin to guard your time, when you begin to cut the unnecessary, when you begin to move through the day like your future depends on it, because it does, you transcend. You transcend distraction. You transcend laziness. You transcend who you were last year, last month, yesterday. You become new, and not by accident, but by design. People will feel it when you walk in. That fire, that focus, that stillness that comes not from arrogance, but alignment. That gravity that comes from knowing who you are, why you're here, and what you do with your time. You don't need to yell. You don't need to flex. Your presence becomes your proof, because your life no longer speaks the language of maybe. It speaks the language of certainty. And where does it begin? Not with some grand event, not with a life-altering moment, not with applause or approval. It begins with your next hour, your next action, your next morning, because how you live your days becomes how you live your life. And when your agenda becomes aligned with your ambition, when your routine matches your reasons, when your habits carry the weight of your hopes, you become a force the world cannot ignore. And that force is not random. It's not mystical. It's measurable. It's methodical. It's right there on your calendar. So don't just write plans, live them. Don't just dream of transformation, schedule it. Don't just hope you'll change design the days that demand it. Because at the end of your life, when the story is told, when your time is up, when the pages are closed and the lights go out, it won't be the dreams you dreamed that will echo into eternity. It'll be the days you lived with intention, the moments you showed up when it was hard, the hours you owned when it was easier to hide. That's the real legacy. Not the highlight reel, but the daily rhythm that no one saw, but built everything. So go, rise, plan with purpose, live with discipline, move with vision, and build a daily life so potent, so present, so powerfully aligned that destiny has no choice but to bow to your command. Because now you know your daily agenda is not just a schedule. It is your prophecy. And what you do with it creates everything. This is the truth. This is the law. This is the code of the uncommon. Your time is sacred. Your life is a masterpiece. And you are the artist. Now pick up the brush and paint a future no one can erase. Let the world watch in awe.